Who's ready to pass their web-based interview? Well, hopefully none of you, because that's why you're here. So if you are here, you're either doing a lot of research on how to apply and get accepted to the Disney College program, or you actually got past the written application and it is time to schedule your web-based interview and you have no idea what to expect. Either way, welcome. If you have not seen part 1, I did a whole video about the written application. Hopefully that will help all of you guys get to this step right here. And this is one of the most difficult steps. It definitely weeds out a lot of people, and those people don't make it to the next step, which is the phone interview. And this is very, very important because this additional interview is basically an online personality test. It is to test how you are as a person, how you act in a workplace, what your first response would be in a situation at work. It is very tricky, but they are just trying to see what kind of a person you are to make sure that you will fit in Disney and be a great cast member. So once your written application gets accepted, you are going to see this email come up, and it's very exciting to see. And once you get this email, you can take your web-based interview from that second up until 3 days after that. Before you do that, you're going to want to watch this video because I'm going to tell you all the secrets that you need to know to pass this part of the interview. The number one thing about this part is that you cannot lie. This interview is created just to detect the liars. And I'll explain why in a minute, but just be honest. Don't be, completely honest to the point where you're talking about all of your flaws, because if you're in an interview with somebody, you're going to be talking about your best self. So be truthful to your best self and not your whole self, and that is how you will get past this interview. So you, as the best worker you can be, is the person that should be taking this quiz. It feels like a quiz because it's a mixture of multiple choice questions and a linear scale-based type of question. So let's get into the structure of this interview. So it is a timed interview. You're gonna have 20 to 50 seconds depending on what kind of question it is. So one thing that I recommend is definitely reading each question out loud and thinking about yourself saying it. I had my mom sit with me and make sure everything that I was saying made sense out loud. It feels like you're taking a test and it scrambles your brain and it makes it really hard to think clearly, or maybe you'll read incorrectly. So read out loud and have someone read with you. If you get annoyed by somebody, don't do it with them because then you're just gonna get frustrated. Pick somebody that you're getting along really well with that day, who is very reliable and has your back, and then you will be fine. So one of the sections that is in this quiz is a multiple choice section. And this section is all about situations that you may encounter when you're at work in Disney. And it'll ask you what you think the best response is to that situation. It seems like all of the answers are correct. Maybe they'll have like a really bad answer that you definitely shouldn't put. Like, for example, I found a really great blog that I have up here. It has awesome examples for interview questions, and I'm just gonna be reading one of those. So this one says, if you see a child hurt their knee while you're on the job, and then it gives you 4 choices. Let a coordinator know to get first aid, look for their parents, point and laugh at them, or make them feel better. So obviously you would not point and laugh at a child. You don't belong in Disney World if you want to do that as your first response. That would be horrible. But the other 3 choices all sound like they would be good steps to do. If the child is alone, you definitely want to look for their parents. But I think in this case, the answer that they might be looking for is to call a coordinator to get first aid. Just because the safety of the guest is the most important. And if you're with them right now, it's okay that you don't have the parents right this second. You want to get them help for their hurt knee, and then the next step you're going to do is call and see if you can find the parents, look around for the parents. But before you do that, you want to get the help for the child if you see that they're bleeding or something. So that is probably the most important thing that you would do. It's hard because you can't explain your answer. You have to just pick it in the moment. You can't say, oh, I would do this and then I would do the other 2. Because obviously when you're calling them to get the help on the radio, you're gonna be like making the child laugh and finding their parents. So who knows if that's a right answer? It's definitely one of the correct answers. They wanna know that you're gonna use your management and your leaders, your coordinators, to help you in a situation. So you'll have a bunch of questions like that. Things where maybe a kid will ask you something funny, or what to do if a child is lost. And I don't know all the correct answers for that. You have to go with your gut. If you start to try and think like somebody who would be a Disney cast member, you might get yourself in a pickle because maybe that's not how you're gonna answer the rest of the questions, and then it doesn't sound consistent. For this whole interview, answer as your best self truthfully, and then you won't have to think about what would a Disney cast member answer, you know? So the next part of the quiz is going to be a whole bunch of linear scale questions. So that will be ranging from strongly disagree all the way up to strongly agree with a neutral in the middle. Watch out for this neutral. For these kinds of questions, they're going to ask you about your personality, about how you act in the workplace, and you do not want to say neutral unless you really do feel that way. Say neutral 2 or 3 times tops. I think I did 2 times. You really want to stick to the strongly agree or strongly disagree sides. They need to know that you are firm in your opinions and your ideas of yourself, because that tells them that you're a confident person and you know yourself. So for the series of questions that's about your personality, they're going to ask the same question in multiple ways. So they're going to give you a statement and then you have to choose an answer on the linear scale. So for example, one would be, I am never late. You say, oh, I am never late. Yes, I strongly agree with that, obviously. And then they'll say, I am rarely on time. I am rarely on time? No, I don't agree with that. I strongly disagree because I am on time. You see how confusing that can get? So you have to make sure that you're reading it as yourself and you stay consistent with your answers. Then the tricky one is, I work well with others as a team. You would want to strongly agree with that because in Disney, you're always going to be working with other people, and you know that helps the place run well. And then it'll also ask you, I work best alone, which is definitely a positive thing. But in Disney, that could come off as you being snooty and thinking that you have the best ideas, your way is the only way, and that might show them that you don't work well with others. So you can either say disagree for that, or you can also strongly agree with that. Be honest, if you feel the exact same way about both, you're an independent person in the workplace and you work well as others, put both. I have no idea what they're looking for. The next set of linear scale questions are going to be kind of like a dating profile. That's what it's going to seem like, or a college roommate quiz is what this blog says it's kind of like. And instead of it being strongly disagree to strongly agree, it's going to range from this describes me very well to this does not describe me at all, with neutral in the middle again. So it will say things like, I let my personal problems affect how I come to work each day. You're going to say, this doesn't describe me at all. Because if you're someone who has a really bad day and you bring that into the workplace, into the happiest place on earth, they don't want you there. That is not a good thing. You want to keep your personal problems separate from your work life. That is a question that I saw a lot on my interview. Then you're going to say things like, I am very neat, or I hardly clean up after myself. And for those, you're going to want the opposite answers again. This is all pretty simple things. If you know yourself well, it shouldn't be hard. And if you know what they're looking for, it shouldn't be hard. They want to know if you're a reliable person, if people come to you for advice sometimes, if you are a natural leader. They'll also ask if you make friends easily. That's a quality that they like to see in their cast members because they want everyone to get along. They don't want you to be by yourself all the time. That's not the Disney way. So all these questions, it gets pretty repetitive. They will also repeat actual questions just to make sure you're still answering the same thing. So don't get confused or shocked if you see the same question more than once, because it's there on purpose. And then the last section, which I completely forgot about until I read this blog, is all about if you are excited for the program. And obviously you are. So it's gonna range from a scale of I'm most excited about this or I'm least excited about this. You're gonna wanna stay on the excited part of the scale, because if you're not excited about it, why would they want you? They want excited people to participate in this program. They'll say things like meeting people from around the world, working with management, leaders. Again, leaders means your managers basically. That's just the Disney term for managers. And they want to know that you are excited about all of these things. So do not put not excited unless you don't want to be chosen. That's the obvious one. They want to know that you're an excited person who is caring. Just think about, how can I keep my guests the most safe, and then I can deal with everything else. Am I going to be friendly? I work well as a team. These are the things that they want to see. They want to see a person who is at their best 100% every time at work, even though that is not true for anybody. You're going to want to say that to them. This is what they want to hear. You know what they want to hear. Don't lie about yourself, because if you lie about yourself in this interview and literally none of these things describe you, you really won't do well in Disney. You're going to be pretty miserable if you're there, and you have to be smiling all the time, and on the hard days you can't have an angry face, even though it happens to everybody. They want someone who's not going to be miserable having to take orders from their leader or have to collaborate with somebody to make the place run well. So please be honest, because if you think this quiz is like, oof, I don't like any of these things, then you're probably not ready for it, which is pretty sad, but it's true. And maybe you should just stick to vacations because it really does take a certain kind of person to work here. It is a lot mentally. I know on certain days I did not want to smile at all, and I am usually a very happy person, but it takes a toll on you because you have to be 100% all the time. I hope all of these things made sense to you, and I think these examples are really important. I'm sure they've come up with some new questions over the years, and just make sure you're constantly thinking as your best self and be honest. Be consistent with your answers, which should be easy if you're being honest. Then you won't get confused, I promise. Make sure you put some Mickey ears on when you're doing this. I did that, it chilled me out. I was like in the zone. Breathe, and it will be over soon. It took me probably 20 minutes. It takes people up to 40 minutes sometimes if you use every second that they give you. Just don't rush. You got this. Please comment below if you used this video and you passed onto the phone interview. So immediately after you complete the web-based interview, they're gonna tell you if you made it or not. And that is why this interview is so scary, because as you're taking it, you're like, oh God, I'm getting closer to the end. They're gonna tell me if I have a phone interview, and then the interview ends and you get the notification. Woo, man, scary stuff. But luckily I got the email. I got the notification that I was ready to schedule my phone interview. And that is gonna be the next video, so stay tuned in the next couple of days. That will be out. It might be out already if you're not watching in June of 2020. So go watch that if you guys are ready to move on to the next step. And congratulations, bye!